That genetic expression actually determines the fate of our cells. And guess what? We control that microenvironment of our cells with sleep, with nutrition, with movement, with stress and emotional mastery, with where we place our thoughts and our mindset, because that changes our nervous system, with living in community and our relationships with other people, and finally, living a sense of purpose.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast, hosted by Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race, and brought to you by Wild Health.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Get fully personalized healthcare based on your DNA, biometrics, and blood work with Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. Go to wildhealth.com and use the code SPARTAN10 to save 10%. The #1 workout recovery blend in America is now available with 200 milligrams of clean caffeine. Fit8 Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and use the code Spartan Energy to save 20% when you sign up for a subscription today. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by 511, the official plate carrier sponsor of the 2022 U.S. Spartan events. Visit 511tactical.com/Spartan.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan. Marion thinks I look like I'm in a safari with this military hat on, but we've been doing the death camp, which is the antithesis of what my guest here is going to talk about. He's going to talk about longevity, how to live life to the fullest and squeeze the most out of it. We're running death camps, so maybe we're not going to get along. Who knows? But anyway, we are attempting to rip people off the couch every week with Spartan Up. Dr. Kien Vuu, you had an incredible immigrant story, I heard. Like you fought your way into this country. Tell us about it.
Well, it was more my parents than me, if anything else. I mean, I was born in post-war Vietnam, and the new regime at the time basically took over all the businesses, all the currency. So my parents, who owned a pharmacy then, everything was taken away from them. In fact, my dad was thrown into jail for re-education. My mom was pregnant with me and had to be forced to entertain. She was also a singer and a pharmacist, forced to entertain the troops there. But shortly after I was born, my parents escaped with me on a refugee boat with 2,000 other refugees. And I was actually the only infant that survived that. We were on the boat for 8 months, docked right outside Manila Bay in the Philippines, spent another 3 months in a Philippine refugee camp. And then as the early Christmas present in 1979, we were sponsored to America by the Catholic Church. And so, really, really fortunate. There was a lot of people that died of dysentery. There was people that fell off the boat while we were out there. And not our boat, but I know a lot of refugees at that time, encountered pirates when they were escaping our country.
Those stories are so unbelievable to me when I hear something like that, because we complain about the most ridiculous things in this country, right? We have it so good. We have zero tolerance for pain. And your mom and dad were on that boat, or just mom?
Yeah, my mom and dad were both on that boat. We were, I carry pictures of it just to remind me, because, I wasn't really conscious at that point. I was only a couple months or in my toddler years. And I've sort of adopted the American sort of mindset sometimes that I forget just what a gift it is, number one, to be alive, and number two, be able to live in such a way that allows our freedoms to allow almost, any dream to happen here in America.
How'd you become a doctor? I mean, it's a long way from being parked outside Manila.
Yeah, well, that wasn't really my number one choice. I remember growing up as an immigrant kid, and I would watch TV, and I would be, constantly excited about, watching people like, Robin Williams, Mick Jagger, Tony Robbins. I love people that could wow a stage. I love people who are able to connect with other people and make an impact. And I wanted to be in entertainment, but then my mom said, you know what, we didn't travel across the world and sacrifice our lives for you to become an entertainer or an actor. I'm going to give you three choices. And she said, you know what, you could be a doctor, an MD or a physician. And so I went to medical school. And really, life doesn't happen to us. It's always happening for us. And I think there's a reason why I went to medical school because, I had studied to be, I chose a specialty that was really hot. It was interventional radiology. That's when you actually use imaging to perform minimally invasive surgeries. And I really climbed the career, the hospital ranks. I spoke around the world of the advances in interventional radiology. But 5-6 years into being an attending, I was overweight. I was diabetic. I had high blood pressure, and I was on prescription medications. And I knew at that point, because I certainly had patients in my own operating room table that started off that way. And basically their fate was ending up in my operating room table where I had to open up their arteries if they were clogged or put a dialysis catheter in them because their kidneys had failed. And I realized at that point that I wasn't given the tools in medical school to actually be healthy. In fact, the whole culture and training to be a doctor in America is actually not a very, very healthy culture. You're not sleeping very well. You're under lots of stress. We don't even get any nutrition training in medical school, unfortunately. People aren't really working out. So it was no wonder that I was overweight, diabetic, and had high blood pressure. And it was really at that point in my life, I felt like I was looking in front of the mirror, telling people to live a healthy life when I didn't really know how to do it on my own. And, and then I really started to explore what health really was. I studied epigenetics. I started studying nutrition. I started to study from shamans. And I started to join groups like I know Vishen's a good friend of yours, like Mind Valley, like different groups that are out there. And I recognized one of my best medicines was actually personal development and understanding myself. Yes, I did all the lifestyle things as well, but it's more living more aligned with who I was as a person. And that kid that wanted to be an actor now understood that, yes, I now have a voice and now have a story that I could share. Because, when chronic disease is climbing in America and around the world, it's not because, we've got new diseases coming, into our bodies, or that we've got viruses coming into our bodies that's mutating our DNA, which is why we have more and more chronic disease. We have more and more chronic disease because people are not living the life that human beings are meant to live. And if you could realign how you live your life to those things, you'll be surprised that I was able to reverse my diabetes and high blood pressure in a matter of 6 months, and now fitter, stronger, more energetic, and happier than I was, 20 years ago even.
It really frustrates me. I lived around the world, and every time I came back on American soil, it was very obvious in any airport, anywhere in the country, how big people were getting, how out of shape, how unhealthy. I'm annoyed that COVID gave us an opportunity to really change the narrative, and rather than maybe locking us in our houses, they could have got us exercising and moving. Maybe we're all pretty lazy creatures. You're president. I just nominated you. You're now president. I'm vice president. How would we change things? What would we do? Because if we tell people, which I want to do, if we tell people like, we're just going to tax the hell out of all this processed food, all this garbage. We're going to tax the hell out of it. It's going to piss some people off. How would you do it?
Well, I don't want to get into the politics of how we do it. I just want to let people know how to do it. And then we'll figure out actually how to actually do it. I mean, I would be a dictator. If I was a dictator, people wouldn't be unhealthy. In fact, people come to me wanting longevity, wanting to reverse their conditions. It's very simple. In fact, I'm just going to share that with the audience today. I'm going to teach you what I learned outside of medical school to make everybody their own doctor. Because if you focus on 7 areas of your life and audit 7 areas of your life, your possibility of getting disease is going to be very, very small, and the ability to live a more fulfilling life with more energy, vitality, and vigor is going to be up there. Because what we want is we want optimal cells. Cells make tissues, make organs, make systems, which make us. And so if we want to live a long time, if we want to have longevity, if we want peak performance, we want optimal cells. And here's the thing. Our cells, some people used to think we got DNA from mom, we got DNA from dad. So we're screwed if we got the bad DNA, because that just means we have bad cells. Well, yeah, it's partially true. DNA makes RNA, makes protein, and the protein determines the fate of our cells, right? Yes, but it's not just what we get from mom and dad. We get DNA from mom and dad, but this DNA constantly interacting with all the energies in that microenvironment to now turn certain genes off, turn certain genes on. That genetic expression actually determines the fate of our cells. And guess what? We control that microenvironment of our cells with these 7 areas, with sleep, with nutrition, with movement, with stress and emotional mastery, with where we place our thoughts and our mindset, because that changes our nervous system, with living in community and our relationships with other people, and finally, living a sense of purpose. All these things that I've laid out, people in the blue zones are already doing, but we now have the science that proves that each one of these 7 areas of life, when we live a life a certain way, it has molecular changes in our body that changes our hormones, which changes our proteins, that speaks to our DNA in a moment-to-moment basis. So we can create this environment for ourselves that basically, that basically will tell our message. We're giving them the wrong message. We're telling ourselves we are in the stress state. That's when inflammation goes up. That's when our immune system goes down. That's when you have suboptimal cells, and that leads to, chronic symptoms and chronic disease. But when you give your cells the right signals, your cells will thrive. I call that the thrive state, and really that's a state of optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. Again, those 7 things: sleep, nutrition, movement, emotional mastery, our thoughts, relationship, and a sense of purpose. So if things are off in your life, audit yourself, be really truly honest with yourself in those 7 areas. And if I was president, I would just basically let people know that that's the case. How then do we now create a society where those 7 things, we foster living well in those 7 areas of our life, rather than letting, the interests of big food and big pharma run the country?
My mom, fortunate for me, in the early 70s, she found those 7 things.
Everybody tells you to sleep better, but let's talk about why and how. I'm Dr. Matt Dawson with Wild Health, Spartan's official healthcare partner. If you're not getting adequate sleep, you may be increasing your risk of death by 4 times over the next 10 years. You're increasing your risk of cancer, dementia, heart attack and stroke, depression, anxiety, poor body composition, basically everything bad that you don't want. And getting adequate sleep is one of the best ways to optimize your mental and physical performance. So how do you get those benefits and optimize your sleep? For me, I like to think about how my ancestors slept, specifically caveman or cavewoman. They're going to bed at a consistent time when the sun goes down. The sun doesn't just turn off either. So there's a gradual preparation to going to bed. And I wasn't there, but I bet they're not on their iPhones before they're going to bed also. It's also dark. There aren't lights coming in from the windows from outside. There's no LED lights in the room. It's cool as well. So having your room a similar temperature, 65 to 66, is what science says is best for optimal sleep. And it's really quiet. If there is noise, it's going to be white noise, more like a bubbling brook. If you just keep those things in mind, the basics, there are hundreds of sleep tips, but just those basics are probably going to give you 90% of the benefit. And you're going to have incredible optimization of your performance, live longer, feel better, if you can sleep like a caveman.
Wild Health, the official healthcare provider of Spartan. This episode is also sponsored by 511, the official plate carrier sponsor of the 2022 U.S. Spartan events. 511 is a global innovator in tactical and technical apparel, footwear, and purpose-built gear. You've seen our athletes wearing their vests. 511 is also hosting Spartan Workout Tour events at select 511 retail stores. These include 90-minute bodyweight training sessions, challenging the mind and the body, catering to all levels of fitness. Everyone is encouraged to join. And you could enter to win 511's Tac Tech plate carrier at select Spartan Honor Series, Stadium, and Workout Tour events. And last but not least, visit 511 at 15 different Spartan races throughout the year to take part in their 511 Fitness Challenge. Go up against Spartan racers, earn exclusive branded 511 Spartan dog tags, and you can get 20% off your next 511 purchase. Find out more at 511tactical.com/Spartan. 511, always be ready. Why do you race? For the glory? For the honor? For the Fit Aid? Every ice-cold can of Fit Aid contains ingredients to help your body recover. It never contains any artificial flavors or sweeteners. Fit Aid is the clean sports recovery drink. It's 45 calories, certified non-GMO tested, vegan, paleo-friendly, certified gluten-free, kosher, and it never contains artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or sodium. And Fit Aid now comes in a zero sugar option that's keto-friendly with only 5 calories. It's naturally sweetened with monk fruit and stevia. The recovery blend has glutamine, glucosamine, turmeric, BCAAs, omega-3s, CoQ10, a full B complex, and electrolytes. It's perfect for after your race, at the gym, hiking, or biking. Find Fit Aid at your next Spartan Race finish line, or go to lifeaidbevco.com and enter the code SPARTAN15 at checkout to save 15% off. That's lifeaidbevco.com and the code SPARTAN15 for 15% off, plus fast, free shipping. Now back to the interview.
She walked into a health store, probably the only health store on the East Coast at the time. She met a yogi, and a yogi enlightened her, and she taught this, tried to teach my sister and I. I wasn't listening because I wanted to be a bigger, more muscular kid like every teenager did. And all that nonsense of how could thoughts possibly create anything? How could words create? That's ridiculous. I didn't want any part of it. But my point is, I guess, we know this, right? We know the China study. We know, go down the list of things we've researched and found out as human beings that work and don't work. But yet, we're too weak. We're too, we chase the cookie, right? We don't have discipline. We're undisciplined. And so I would say, not that you want a dictator, but I would say we got to put rules and regulations. Look, we don't let young kids drive.
Yeah.
We don't let young kids go to bars at 12 years old and drink. Like, why are we poisoning ourselves? My friend ran the New York City school food program. $1.2 billion budget, great intentions like you. He was going to get rid of French fries. He was going to get rid of pizza. He was going to put whole wheat bread. He was going to get rid of this and that. He said he couldn't do anything. Big food squashed him every direction he went in. Couldn't get it done.
Yeah. Well, Joe, if you have any contacts, my dream is really to use the power of media and entertainment to give the message of health empowerment. Because if we look at what's out there today, when you already become an adult, you've already developed habits, certain things you grab when you're feeling stressed out or bored or anxious. We have certain ways that we are meant to live. So many people are starting to grab their phones and just live there. Not many people are living a more conscious life that many people are reacting rather than responding. And where does this all start? This starts, basically in utero until we're 7 or 8 is we start to build these things that we learn, these beliefs and how life is lived. And what kind of messages are we telling our children when we let, big food companies, big soda companies, giving the message that it's out there? Yes, they're getting entertained. They're getting, they're getting the puppets and things like that entertained, but they're giving messages like, oh no, drink this sugary drink. And that's what we're giving people with. And I think, it's therefore that important that we use the same avenues that people are already, tied to where their attention is, reach them there, but give them the other message, and teach them earlier on that they are in control of their health and they are in control of their decisions as well. That we can actually pause, take a tactical pause when we decide to eat, when we decide to communicate with somebody of how we actually want to show up.
I'm not Mr. Negative. I'm going to sound like Mr. Negative. But again, these messages have been in the media for a long time. It should be obvious to everybody that a little more salad and a little less cake, a little more walking and a little less sitting is good. I mean, look, we smoked cigarettes for we're a mess as a species. So I'm not saying you're not going to change a bunch of lives the way you're suggesting. Look, we put on races, right? Mm-hmm. And what I found, we've had 10 million people do a race somewhere in the world. 10 million people since we started. And what I found is when people sign up for a race, they're scared out of their minds, and that forces them to act a little differently. Yeah. They eat one less cookie, they drink one less drink, they go to bed a little earlier, they take a cold shower, they train harder. Without something on the calendar, I'm talking about the majority. People just don't do it. Yeah,
I love the fact that you've got a dedicated goal, and and not only that goal that you have, but you have a time of and when. So people start to get moving. hopefully, people don't have to go through what I've been through as in get disease to be able to reverse it. Hopefully they don't get a cancer diagnosis for them to change. Hopefully they're not going into divorce because they're so reactive and never responding from a place of love with their spouse, and they start to wake up. Sometimes it takes a big life crushing event for people to make changes. But I love the fact that the people who've joined up to do these Spartan races have something to work towards, and they realize that how they're living their life before won't allow them to finish that race successfully if they were to continue down that path.
Where do you live?
I live in Los Angeles.
I'm going to find an event coming up. I'm going to give you 300 free 299 free entries, kind of like the Spartan 300 from 2,500 years ago, Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
I want you to lead 299 people to a new life. It's all on me. And what you'll see, your message is spot on. The science is spot on. Clearly, you're a doctor. You're a lot smart. But what you'll see is when they do something hard, especially, this is going to sound weird, maybe not for you, but when it's like dirty and outdoors and it's not pristine and clean like we try to make everything, It's even more impactful. It's even more impactful. So I want Dr. V, I'll make a flag for you. You could run the whole thing carrying like a longevity flag.
I heard you had a conversation with Eric, the trainer, which I worked out with. And this is something that we could potentially do together because we're basically neighbors.
Yes, that's right. I did talk to Eric. I told him I would do it in LA. That's right. So let's try to make that happen because the only reason I do this, it's certainly not for the money because I keep losing money. The only reason I do this is to change lives and get those emails that say, hey, you changed my life. I'm back with my husband. I'm back with my wife. I lost 243 pounds. I gave up drugs. I didn't kill myself. Yeah. Those are the emails we get on a daily basis. So how do people find you other than the race we're gonna force you to do?
So I'm all over social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, at Kien Vuu MD. That's KIENVUUMD. I've got the book Thrive State that talks about basically how to actually control your own biology and control your genetic expression. That book you can find at thrivestatebook.com. And those are the easiest ways to reach me.
You're awesome. Well, I can't wait to meet you in person. We'll hang out with Eric, the trainer, and we're going to change some lives. And who knows, Dr. V for president. I'd like to be vice president if you'd have. Well,
I wasn't born in this country, as you remember. So unless we change the rules, that might not happen. But I don't know if I need to be born in this country for VP. So maybe I'll be your wingman, sir.
The #1 workout recovery blend in America is now available with 200 milligrams of clean caffeine. Fit8 Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and use the code SPARTANEnergy to save 20% when you sign up for a subscription today. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by 511, the official plate carrier sponsor of the 2022 U.S. Spartan events. Visit 511tactical.com/Spartan. Maximize energy, optimize nutrition, and improve performance with Wild Health. Personalized precision healthcare built for Spartans. You'll get a personalized health plan based on your DNA and biometrics and the support of a team of health experts. Sign up at wildhealth.com with the code SPARTAN10 to save 10%.